Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I have for you another spooky bakes tutorial. So today I'm going to be showing you how I made these macarons. So these are just classic macarons, you don't have to style them like I did. This is just the basic recipe that I haven't actually put on my channel yet. So this is also the recipe I used for the macarons that were on my letter cake in a video way back. So if you want to check out how I use the macarons in that video, go back and have a watch of that. So let's get started and let's show you how I made these. First thing I did was I cleaned all of my bowls and whisks and everything with vinegar. So I used white vinegar, and that's just to make sure that there's no grease or residue left on any of your surfaces. This is just an extra precaution you can take to make sure that the macarons come out perfectly. Another little precaution I've taken is before adding my ground almonds, I've actually ground them a little bit more in a small mixer. You can do this is completely optional. Something that's really important that you do is to make sure that when you're sieving your almonds is that you don't push the bigger lumps through the sieve, you just discard of them when they sort of stop going through the sieve, and then you keep measuring so that you've got enough actual almonds in your mixture. So there I am sieving together 190 grams of almonds and 205 grams of icing sugar. What you will see in this video is I actually do two different mixes. So I actually split all the ingredients in half, and I put half in one bowl, half in another. I wanted to experiment with two different colours. But this is completely optional. You can do this and it won't make a massive difference to your mixture, but obviously you can do just one bulk of it. So what I'm now doing is I'm going to measure out 144 grams of egg whites. So that means I have to separate my egg whites from my yolks. I found that 144 grams of egg whites is normally about 4 medium eggs. So I only had large eggs, so I had to improvise a little bit at the end. But yeah, so about 144 grams, which you then want to split into two portions of 72 grams. So this is important because one of those 72 grams is going to be added to your almonds, and one of them is going to be used to make your meringue. So here I'm adding 72 grams, well I'm actually adding 36 grams to one of my almond mixtures, and I'm just folding the almonds, the icing sugar and the egg whites all together. You don't have to be particularly delicate at this stage, you can be as vigorous with your mixing as you want to be. It doesn't make a huge difference at this stage, but this is the stage that you want to add your food colouring if you're going to. If you don't add food colouring to your macarons, they come out a sort of white beigey colour. If you want them a really brilliant white, my tip would be to add a small amount of blue, and then they come out quite sort of like a dazzling white. If you want them to come out slightly creamier in texture, you can leave them as they are, or maybe add a tiny bit of yellow. You'll see in a second that I actually added some orange food colouring, well some red food colouring and some yellow food colouring in the hope of making some orange macarons, but I sort of underestimated the fact that when you add food colouring to macarons, you need the colouring to be really vibrant and really well mixed before adding your meringue, because if it's too pale it just will not show up. So it has to be super bright, and my mixture just wasn't bright enough, and they basically all came out the same colour, maybe a little bit pinkish. So yeah, if you want them to be coloured, add a lot of food colouring, and I would always recommend food colouring paste instead of food colouring liquid, because the paste doesn't have a huge effect on the actual mixture as a whole, whereas adding liquid to this mixture may cause problems later on. So you want to set that aside. I put some cling film over my almond mixtures just to make sure that they're not affected by the heat or anything in the kitchen. And I am adding 190 grams of caster sugar and 60 millilitres of cold water to a small pan. I'm going to place it on medium heat and I'm not going to stir it. So I'm going to get ready to make my meringue. So I'm putting 72 grams of egg whites into a metal bowl with the whisk attachment. Once my sugar has reached a temperature of 100 degrees Celsius, and now you do need a thermometer for this, then you can begin to whisk your egg whites. They should reach sort of a bubble bath foamy texture. And this should happen before your sugar mixture reaches 118 degrees. So you don't want your sugar temperature to reach any higher than 118 degrees. Once it's reached 118, you want to add it to your meringue that's whipping up. Once you've added it to the bowl, you want to make sure that the mixer is set on the highest speed possible and that that's mixing away for quite a long amount of time. I'd say about 10 minutes, at least until the bowl has cooled and you've got the desired texture you want. So whilst that's just mixing up, I'm lining all of my baking trays with some silicone paper. And I'm taking my ground almond mixture that I had from before. And first thing you want to do is you want to add a small amount of the meringue to the mixture, just so it thins out the mixture slightly. So you can be as vigorous as you want with this as well, you don't have to fold it at this stage. This is just to loosen up the mixture, to try and get it a little bit more liquid rather than solid, make it a little bit more pliable. Once that's all mixed in, you can add the rest of your meringue. Of course, again, I only added around half of my meringue at this stage, but you can add it all in as long as you've got all of the almond mixture in one bowl. But this is the stage where you don't want to overly stir your mixture. So all you want to do is fold. So my folding method would be to scoop around the edge of the bowl, as you can see I'm going to do here. So scoop around the edge of the bowl and cut through the middle. So scoop around, cut through the middle, and just repeat that process over and over again. I've seen people fold in slightly more delicate techniques, but what happens when I seem to do that is I seem to end up folding my mixture for 10 minutes and then I've knocked all the air bubbles anyway because I've spent so long folding it. So I wouldn't worry too much about your folding. Try and just be as gentle as possible and not to sort of stir it. If you're seeing clumps, just try and pick up on those bits and flatten them out. But as you can see, it didn't take too long for all those lumps to be removed and for the mixture to fully combine. And be careful when you're folding that the sort of centre of your bowl hasn't got mixture stuck to the bottom of it, so try and make sure you've moved it around a lot as well. So what I'm doing now is I'm grabbing a piping bag. I've just put a round nozzle in the end. You can use whatever nozzle really, but traditionally for macarons you just want to use a round nozzle, probably a 2 centimetre diameter one if you can. And then you just want to pop your macaron mixture into your piping bag. Remember, you don't need to overfill your piping bag, especially if you've got the whole batch in one bowl. Your whole meringue mixture probably isn't going to fit in one piping bag. And I have made the mistake of filling my piping bag up too much and then having it all spill over the top, so try not to do that. So just fill it up as much as you want. I managed to get half in, so all of this mixture went into one piping bag. Then what I actually do is I lay my silicone paper over the top of these baking mats. I've actually found that my macarons really don't like these baking mats. I'm not sure if it's just like the baking trays as well, but they always seem to go wrong whenever I put them on these mats. So what I do is I just lay the silicone paper over the top, use the circles as a guide for piping, and then I just slide the paper off and put them straight onto the baking tray and into the oven. So I also decided to experiment with a couple of different shapes. So I did traditional circles, and I also wanted to do sort of like little ghost shapes. These were really hard to do, but I'm really glad I tried it, and I think I know what I could do better next time. Just sort of draw a line along the bottom, but be a bit more generous than I'm being with your line. And then I used actually a little cake tester. Just swirl the two different piping parts that you've just made together, and just make sure that it's sort of pushed out where you want it to be pushed out, and you can change the shape of it slightly. Where it went wrong for me really is I just didn't put enough mixture in some places, and I didn't make the shape as recognisable as I should have. So what I didn't show is that I left these on the side for about 40 minutes while my oven reached temperature. So you want to set your oven to 165 degrees Celsius if it's a fan oven. Once your macarons have formed sort of a skin on top, then they're ready to go in the oven. So that depends on the humidity of your room. It can be anywhere between half an hour and an hour. I then place the macarons into the oven for between 12 and 14 minutes. I found the longer the better for my oven. I think my oven may be a little bit on the cooler side, but just keep checking if they've sort of risen and got feet. What I like to do is I like to just sort of tap them while they're on the baking tray. If I tap them and the top sort of moves away from the bottom, they're not ready. If I tap them and, they're starting to come away from the bottom of the mat, then that's perfect. So then I take them out, let them cool on the baking tray, just so that the bottoms are completely cooked through, and then take them off and leave them to cool completely before adding any decoration or any filling. So I'd left these to cool, and I'm just piping some chocolate cream inside. If you want a video on how to make this chocolate cream, do let me know in the comments down below. I added those little eyes, I think they're from Wilton's, and then I did this sort of chocolate on top to make them look a little bit like Mummies. But yeah, that is all I did. I really hope you enjoyed this video of how I make my classic macarons. You can style these up for any occasion, and yeah, they're just so much fun to make, so easy. Now I've sort of got a rhythm of doing these macarons. I will see you again maybe this week with another Halloween spooky video. I've got another one lined up, so hopefully that will be with you before the 31st of October.